special event. We're so lucky that we have 4 graduates on Tier 2 visas with us today. They've kindly given up their own time, taken time out of their jobs to come and speak to you all about their Tier 2 work experiences and their jobs. So would you like to just quickly introduce yourselves, say your names and just wave?
Mushwin, and I'm working in Sheffield. Hi everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wakar. I work in London for Accenture. Any questions? Ask me.
Hi, I'm Lydia. I'm working in Liverpool, IT consulting company.
Hi, I'm Yusuf Hussaini. I work in London. I'm a cybersecurity engineer. Any questions? Don't ask me. Ask me.
So the structure for the presentation, I'm going to talk you through the Tier 2 rules, the practicalities, and then I'm going to hand over for 10-minute talks or presentations from our graduates. And then after that, you're welcome to ask any questions of our graduates as well. Can everyone hear me at the back? Yeah, great. So the whole session's going to last about an hour and a half. If you need to leave, please just do it early. If you need to leave early, please just do it quietly so you don't disturb everyone else. Before we start, I also have a special announcement. Has anyone heard of our Summer Connect mentoring scheme? Anyone here ever taken part as a Culture Connect mentor? Yeah? Great. So we have a special scheme where we ask our students to become mentors for new students who are new in the university. And we have a special summer scheme called Summer Connect Mentor, and we're inviting you to apply to be mentor for students who will be studying English courses over the summer. So we have an application form, and all the information here is on this website. We really encourage you to apply. And the reason why I'm telling you about this special scheme is because I'm sure, as our graduates will tell you, it's so important to get as much work experience and get involved in as many extracurricular activities as you can. And this is a perfect scheme, a perfect opportunity to put down on your CV that you worked as a mentor assisting our new students at the university. All the details about the scheme and the application on our website, and I'll send you this link to your email as well. But let's get started on Tier 2. So Tier 2 work visas. So today we're talking about the Tier 2 general work category. There are other categories of Tier 2, but we're focusing very much on Tier 2 general. So this is the work visa if you want to work full-time in the UK for a company. Full-time work in the UK for a company after you graduate. Tier 2 general. And we're going to cover these points. So I'll talk about eligibility. I'm going to talk about resident labour market test, the visa application process, the visa application process in the UK or if you apply at home, and some important differences. I will give you some top tips, and then the special part you will hear from our graduates, Yusuf, Wakar, Lydia and Ashwin. The first thing for eligibility, when you're looking for a job and you're looking for a company, the company must have a license. A special license, and this is given by the government. If the company does not have a license, it will not work for the Tier 2 visa. It's not eligible. And there is a list of all the companies which have a license, and you can find it here. Anybody want to take a guess how many companies there are with a license? Oh, not bad, not bad. So it's currently 29,322. So quite a lot of companies out there, but only those listed here with the Tier 2, so these also have Tier 5 listings, but you're looking at Tier 2 ratings. Only those are the eligible companies. And if you're successful at the interview and the job meets all the criteria, it's the company, the employer, will issue you with a certificate of sponsorship. So probably all of you have a Tier 4 visa, right? Student visa. And you have a CAS, C-A-S, for your Tier 4 visa. For Tier 2, it's the company sponsoring you, and they give you a COS. So CAS and COS, very, very similar. On this certificate of sponsorship, the employer is confirming we're sponsoring you for this Tier 2 visa, your job title, your salary, hours, all the necessary information. So you can only apply for your visa if all the criteria are met and once the employer gives you this certificate of sponsorship. The job itself. The job needs to be at graduate level, graduate jobs, which is what you're all looking for, right? Graduate level jobs. And graduate level means NQF level 6 or higher. This is just the government term for graduate level, NQF 6 or higher. There are only 2 exceptions to this rule where the job can be below degree level, and that's at NQF 4. And these 2 exceptions are here. So only if the job is in creative sector occupations, and I've listed them there, or if the job features on the shortage occupation list, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. But the main thing I want to emphasise, the job has to be graduate level. So we're not talking about part-time work in a supermarket or in a shop, fashion shop, for example. We're talking about graduate level jobs. Okay, that's the main point, graduate level jobs. So the job itself needs to feature on one of these lists. So only if the job features on the codes of practice or the shortage occupation list is it eligible for sponsorship. So company must have a license, job needs to be at graduate level and feature on one of these 2 lists. These 2 lists are prepared by the government lists. They can change, and you have the links here. And you are looking at NQF level 6. Remember, that's the graduate level, level 6 jobs. Or you can look at PhD level jobs. It doesn't matter if you do or don't have a PhD, or if you're graduating with PhD, it doesn't matter. But these are the jobs you're looking at. And I'm going to quickly show you what that list looks like. So we have codes of practice, and the 2 tables you're going to look at is Table 1, Skill to PhD, or Table 2, Level 6 and above. So let's have a quick look. So I'm going to pick something at random. Let's have a look. Okay, pick another one. Health managers. So you can see on here, there is a job title, Health Services and Public Health Managers, and a code next to it, 1181. So the company will look here and take this code and this job title when they are creating your certificate of sponsorship. So if they're employing you as a health service manager, they're going to take this information, and only if the job fits this kind of description and this code can they then produce a certificate of sponsorship. You'll find other jobs listed here. So next example is civil engineer. Again, you have a code, the job title, and then the tasks that the government expects will happen in that role. The other list is shortage occupation list. This is a lot smaller, this list. And these are jobs where we really need extra international talent like you. There aren't enough British people, European people to take these jobs. But it's a much, much smaller list. Again, it works in the same way. You have the job title and the code, and then a description of the types of jobs in that area that the government expects would happen. The salary. The salary is also very important, and I'm sure you've heard about the minimum salary for these types of jobs. For Tier 4 students switching in the UK, generally speaking, the minimum salary for the job must be £20,800. And that is if you are considered to be a new entrant. What is a new entrant? A new entrant is somebody who is under 26 years old, or the company, the Tier 2 sponsor, recruited you by, we call it a milk round. That means where the company comes on campus and directly recruits you on campus. If you're not sure whether your company fits that criteria, the company can tell you that, or the university can. Or you are exempt from the resident labour market test. I'm going to return to that. Generally speaking, the minimum salary is £20,800, but it still depends on the job. So the salary, the minimum salary for each job still varies. And I'm going to return to those lists that I showed you and demonstrate what I mean. For example, going back to our example of civil engineer, at the bottom you can see, maybe you can see, salary rates, and it says here, new entrant, 25,700. So actually, for this job role, the minimum salary is 25,700, according to this job. So although the minimum, it can never be below 20,800, in fact, it's also according to the job, whatever is listed here. So it can vary, and my advice, if you're interested in this area, in this job, or whichever jobs you're looking at and you're doing your research, you need to know what kind of salary level you're heading for, so you know if it does or doesn't qualify you for a Tier 2 visa, and what kind of level of job that you're aiming for in the UK. So to repeat, the wage for each occupation can vary, can never be under 20,800, and it's the minimum salary according to those lists. Sometimes you might see a salary listed below 20,800 that wouldn't apply to anyone in this room. That's usually listed where somebody is extending their visa and it's under old rules. It will not apply to you in this room. Okay. So to refresh, we've talked about the company must have a license, the job must feature on one of those lists, right? Shortage occupation or code of practice, and the wage must be at the right level. So these three main criteria, right? There's also something else I need to talk to you about, and that's called resident labour market test. Government loves long words. Resident labour market test. I'm going to call it RLMT for short. When you go for interviews, the company might say, oh, but we have to carry out this test. And this test is about showing to the government that you were the best candidate, who did they interview, how did they interview, how long did they interview, and providing lots of evidence to the government about why you were the best candidate. However, this test actually is not needed if these criteria apply. And some companies will know about this, some companies might not know about this exception. So the reason I'm telling you today is because when you go to interviews or you're having discussions with companies, please bear this in mind, because some companies might worry they need to undertake this test when in fact they don't. So the test doesn't apply if you are a Tier 4 student, so on a student Tier 4 visa, and you're switching to your Tier 2 visa in the UK. And if you have successfully completed your degree, which I'm sure all of you will, so when I say degree, we mean bachelor's, master's, PhD, PGC, PGDE. or if you successfully completed 12 months of your PhD on your Tier 4 visa. The third rule, which is a new rule, is that the test isn't required also if the job is for maximum 3 years and 1 month. This is a new rule the government has brought in. So the job that they're offering to you cannot be longer than 3 years and 1 month. Let's say the company wants to hire you for 5 years, then they must do the test, the resident labour market test. But if all these criteria apply, so you're switching to your Tier 2 visa in the UK, you've completed your course or 12 months of your PhD, and the job is 3 years, 1 month maximum, the company doesn't need to undertake this test. And that means it's one less burden, one less problem for the company. Okay, it's good news. Other visa requirements. You will need to keep money in your bank account, maintenance, just like you did for your student visa. But for Tier 2, you need to keep 945, and that's every day, 90 days in your bank account. So my top tip is to start keeping that money in your account so you know that it's there. If you have dependents who will be applying with you, 630 for each dependent. Or the employer can tick on the certificate of sponsorship that they will certify your maintenance, but we can't predict whether your company will or won't do that, so I still suggest you prepare your money. Other things you'll need to produce evidence of your English language by way of your degree certificate, and you'll get a course completion letter from your faculty. If anyone is sponsored, and I mean officially sponsored by a government or a charity, you will need permission from your sponsor to apply for the visa and remain in the UK. So official sponsorship, I mean company, government, charity, something like that. I don't mean mum or dad or auntie, I mean official sponsorship. Dependents means husband, wife, civil partner, unmarried partner or same-sex partner, and children. This is also a new rule, a new document that you'll need, and it's a criminal record certificate. Now the rules say that anybody applying for a Tier 2 job, and their dependents as well, and if it's a job in the education, health or social care sector, must have a criminal record certificate. And why is this important? Well, you must have a certificate for any country you've lived in when you were over 18 and you lived in that country for 12 months or longer. So I really want to tell you about this now, because the processes for getting a criminal record check in your home countries, I don't know how long it takes, I don't know the process, but you need to start looking into that so you have your criminal record check ready for your application. So that's my other top tip. If you get your criminal record check from your home country, the certificate is valid indefinitely, so you can just keep hold of it for your visa application. If you've lived in the UK for more than 12 months at the time of your Tier 2 application, you'll need to apply in the UK for your criminal record check, but that certificate is only valid for 6 months, so you have to be a bit careful with your timing and when you make that application. I've included the link about how to apply for that there. If your criminal record check comes in different language, you'll need the translation. And by the way, it needs to be original, so no copies or scans or by email. It has to be an original document from your home country. I'm going to speed up a bit. Application process. So when do you actually apply for your visa? The visa part comes right at the end of the process. So you first of all need a successful interview in your job offer, and it meets all those criteria that I've told you about, the license, the job level, it's featured in those documents. The employer will issue you with the certificate of sponsorship, and only then will you apply for your visa and make sure you have your criminal record certificates ready. If you have a Tier 4 visa, your visa should be valid for the length of your course, and then usually you will have 2 or 4 months included in your visa from the end of your official course end date, and it's in that period that you'll actually apply for your. There are some differences about applying in the UK or from home. One of you applied at home? Yes. So I'll ask you to talk about that in part of your talk as well. There are some important differences which I want to let you know about. Maintenance, you can see, is the same. Resident labour market test. That's not required if you meet those criteria, but the company must carry that out if you're applying from home. And why is that important? That's important because it's extra work for the company. It might be off-putting for them. So again, it's much better if you can apply in those 4 months on your visa if possible. The other issue is that there's a quota for companies. So if you're applying in the UK, the company can issue the certificate of sponsorship if all those criteria are met. But if you're applying from home, the government has a monthly quota on how many certificates of sponsorship in total can be produced. And the employer needs to ask for permission from the Home Office before they issue the sponsorship. So it's completely possible to get the visa. We have a successful example, but there are some extra barriers in the way. That's why my advice to you is about concentrating on, if possible, switching in the UK. My quick top tips. Tip number 1, do your research. So please have a look through these documents, the codes of practice, the shortage occupation list, so you understand what jobs are listed there, and importantly, which jobs are not listed there. Okay, so whether the sector that you're interested in is actually going to be eligible for this visa or not. Second tip, you will always get asked as part of your job application, do you have permission to work full-time, or do you have a work visa? You will always get this question because every company needs to make sure that you can work here legally. And often the online application forms are not sophisticated. There isn't a box where you can tick, I'm a Tier 4 student, but I'm looking for a Tier 2 job and I will be applying for my visa and it will be fine. There's none of that possibility. You just have a yes or no answer. My advice is that you answer yes to this, because if you answer no, your application automatically will go in the bin, will automatically be refused, right? But you need to explain your situation. So in the notes section, in the free field, or the attached documents, that's where you explain. The company has a license, the job meets the criteria, I'm eligible to switch into a Tier 2 visa. So you're telling the truth, but you will need to answer yes so you get past that hurdle. Lots of students have told me that they constantly got automatic rejections because they didn't realise they were pressing no and it was getting straight away refused. It's really important how you answer that. Number 3 top tip is educating employers. You will find that some companies will know these Tier 2 rules, especially the big companies and the ones that run graduate schemes, but smaller companies may have no clue about the rules. And then it's your job to tell them this information, and you can also direct them to us. We can have a chat on the phone as well. There's a really great leaflet called Recruiting International Graduates, a guide for employers, and you can download that, take it to interviews or share with your company if they're asking you questions or don't seem sure. 4th top tip is about the criminal record, this new rule that's come in. So please start thinking about getting your criminal record check from home, from other countries if you've lived there and you need to get one. And finally, some useful contacts. Council for International Students has a great section on work visas. Prospects is a really great website when you're starting out and finding out which employers are relevant in your area, and you have our contact details. I've rushed through the visa section because I really now want to invite our graduates to come and talk. So you probably have questions about the visa application. If you can hold your questions till after the presentations, and we'll be happy to take them. Okay, so who would like to go first? You say?